I never imagined I'd uncover the heart-stopping secrets behind medieval body counts. The day I stumbled upon that ancient document, my heart raced. I could almost hear the echoes of clashing swords, feel the terror of villagers as fate turned its cruel hand. Shadows danced on the walls of my cramped study, damp air heavy with the scent of worn leather and old paper. I picked it up, trembling fingers brushing over faded ink. Words like massacre and butchered leaped off the page, jolting me. I will never forget the first sentence that drew me in. On the eve of the great battle, the very earth soaked with blood, the knights emerged from the fog like specters. My mind reeled. What stories lay buried under centuries of dust? The clash of steel against steel, the cries of the fallen. Could there really be a hidden truth in the numbers? Was there something unfathomable behind each scribbled tally? My heart ached at the thought of it. Growing up, my grandmother told me tales that haunted my dreams. "Shed tears for lost souls," she would whisper, her voice trembling with age. She lived through those storms of violence. I could feel her pain ripple through the stories she shared. Now, alone in my dim room, those childhood ghost tales rang true in horrific clarity. The weight of the past pressed so heavily on my chest, I could barely breathe. Those numbers that had once seemed faceless mere figures to recount glory were bound to lives extinguished. Each was a story untold, lost to history. They resonated deep within me, igniting a fire of outrage and sorrow. I wanted to cry out, to scream against the injustice of forgetting them. It was then, amidst my turmoil, that my phone buzzed. A message blinked to life on the screen. "You're not ready for what comes next," it read. The hairs on my neck prickled. Who sent that? My heart thundered in my chest. I wasn't alone in this pursuit. But who else was interested in these grisly secrets? As I stared at the phone, shadows flickered in the corner of my eye. Was I truly alone? I could feel the pulse of history wrapped around me like a shroud, urging me to delve deeper. What lay beyond those whispered statistics? The chilling thought of someone watching crept into my mind. Suddenly, the door creaked, sending chills shooting down my spine. Was it the wind? Or something, waiting just outside, eager to keep the secrets buried? My heart raced faster, and I fought against the urge to run. I had to know. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The atmosphere shifted in my cramped study, thickening as uncertainty loomed over me like a storm cloud. I inhaled deeply, drawn to the doorway, where the creak echoed hauntingly. The shadows stretched, taunting me, while the flicker of the candlelight illuminated the age-old tomes that lined the walls. What had I summoned with my curiosity? Was it fate or folly that pushed me to uncover the dark tapestry woven through centuries? I glanced at my phone again, the slight glow seeming to burn brighter against the encroaching darkness. My pulse quickened. The message, so charged with foreboding, rattled my composure. "You're not ready for what comes next." What did it mean? Was it a warning? A threat? Or perhaps a challenge from a kindred spirit? Summoning my courage, I approached the door, half expecting it to swing open on its own. When it didn't budge, I reached for the handle and hesitated. A sigh escaped my lips, a fleeting moment of vulnerability. What if this was a futile journey, one designed to plunge me deeper into despair rather than discovery? I opened the door cautiously. The hallway outside was bathed in fading light, the walls adorned with peeling wallpaper that spoke of neglect and time's passage. For a heartbeat, I considered retreating, but my resolve hardened. I needed to understand what lay beyond the documents. I took a step forward, an echo of my grandmother's words reverberating within me. There's strength in seeking the truth, even when it hurts. As I ventured down the hall, memories flooded my mind. Images of my grandmother poring over her cherished history books, lost in battles fought long ago, filled my vision. She often spoke of the need to remember, to honor those who suffered. If we forget, she had warned, we doom ourselves to repeat the past. I pressed on, driven by her spirit and the weight of the past. The air felt electric, crackling with potential as I approached the staircase. It twisted downward, an uninviting descent into the unknown. Each step down seemed to echo not only my footfalls but the whispers of 1,000 lost souls. When I reached the lower level, I found myself in a dimly lit room that smelled like stale parchment. Old maps and faded scrolls lay scattered across a large oak table. A reeking of dust clouded my senses, yet within that dusty haze, something shimmered, a glint of hope amid the gloom. Suddenly, I spotted a small box, intricately carved with ancient symbols that seemed hauntingly familiar. Bending down to inspect it, I felt an unusual warmth radiating from the wood, as though it pulsed with a secret longing to be found. With trembling hands, I lifted the lid, and inside lay a collection of small, handwritten notes, each one a testament to a life lived and lost. As I sifted through them, my heart ached. These were last words, remembrances tucked carefully away in hope of redemption. I read one that caught my attention. Tell my loved ones I fought bravely, though the earth may forget my name. Tears brimmed in my eyes, heavy with the weight of their sorrow. Just as I was lost in the intimacy of their stories, I heard a rustle behind me. My breath caught, a presence lingered just out of sight. "Who's there?" I called, voice trembling. No reply came, but I could feel the intensity of a gaze piercing through the shadows, watching, waiting. That a feeling of dread wrapped around me tightly as I turned to confront my unseen observer. But all that met my eyes was the flickering candlelight, casting distorted shadows on the walls. My heart raced with an urge to flee, but the notes in my hand anchored me, encouraging me to stand firm. Then, I felt a presence materializing from the depth of the shadows. I squinted into the dimness, and my breath hitched when I saw one unexpected figure. It was a woman, her features clothed in the fabric of night. Her eyes, however, gleamed with a light that spoke of compassion but also sorrow. Almost instinctively, I knew she was connected to the very stories I held. "Are you here to help me?" I asked, the tremor in my voice betraying my fear. She stepped closer, pulling the shadows around her like a mantle. "You must understand, not all souls can find rest, especially those whose tales have been forgotten. But you have the power to bring their stories to light." And just like that, the weight of my quest transformed from a solitary burden into something feverishly urgent, as a new path opened before me. Yet, before I could respond, before clarity could settle, the deafening crack of thunder erupted outside, shaking the very foundations of the house, and with it, the power flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. In that moment of terror, a startling realization hit me hard. I was not merely an explorer of the past, but a beacon for the lost. And as the shadows swirled around me, I could almost hear the whispers of 100 forgotten lives urging me to Chusito, embrace or to flee. In the heart of the darkness, the pervasive silence bore down on me like a weight that threatened to crush my spirit. I could barely breathe, the air thickening as I instinctively pressed the notes against my chest, seeking solace in their fragile words. The room seemed to pulsate with unseen energy, urging me forward while simultaneously paralyzing me with fear. "Stay," the woman's voice was soft yet firm, cutting through the stillness. "You are meant to be here, meant to." My voice was barely above a whisper, ushering forth my disbelief. "Why me?" "I'm just a seeker," she interrupted, taking a step closer, her outline flickering like a candle's flame. "You possess a light, a curiosity others lack. Use it to guide them." I felt a rush of emotion at her words, a heady mix of purpose and trepidation. I wanted to believe that my role mattered, that I could weave the past's fragments into something whole. But shadows danced mockingly around me, their whispers just out of reach, reminding me of the weight of this new responsibility. "What do you need from me?" I asked, my voice steadier now with the resolve stealing my heart. "Listen carefully. Each note you hold carries a piece of a story, a history that yearns to be told," she replied, her eyes shimmering with an intensity that felt both otherworldly and familiar. "Some may lead to redemption. Others will uncover painful truths. But all will demand your courage." As I looked down at the notes, I felt an ache in my chest. Would I be able to bear the burdens they carried? The realization that my grandmother's stories, shaping my understanding of resilience and honor, were now pivotal to a greater narrative filled me with both pride and dread. A flicker of the candlelight returned just then, casting an ethereal glow that located a dusty corner of the room. Among the tattered maps and scattered histories, I noticed an ancient scroll protruding from under a heavy tome. It bore marks of age and neglect but promised possibilities. I approached cautiously, as if it were an offering rather than a relic. The woman nodded approvingly, her gaze encouraging. Discover what lies beneath. Sometimes, it is the forgotten that hold the strongest truths. With a deep breath, I carefully lifted the scroll, its surface rough against my fingertips. Slowly, I unraveled it, desperate to uncover the secrets hidden within the faded ink. Words wove together, echoing tales of battles lost, of kingdoms betrayed, of lives extinguished before their time. But then, where the ink whispered of history, a name leaped out at me, drawing my focus with an intensity that stole my breath. Sir Alaric of Braemore. My heart raced. I'd heard that name echo through my grandmother's stories, spoken reverently as she recounted his heroic yet tragic fate centuries ago. A knight who fought valiantly yet harbored a dark secret, the woman commented, her voice laced with both admiration and sorrow. His fate is interlinked with the souls you are meant to connect. That I struggled to absorb the weight of her words, teetering on the edge of fear and fascination. What was his secret? I managed to ask, the urgency in my voice overtaking my anxiety, something unspeakably a choice that altered the course of countless lives. She stepped closer, as if to share the burden. And without rest, he and his brothers wander still, yearning for justice that can only come through truth. You must find them not just for him, but for every soul who has been bound by silence. Determined, I glanced back at the notes in my hand, realizing that the stories of these lost lives had coursed through generations, reaching me for a purpose. Yet, the darkness pressed in, tugging at me, reminding me of the risk associated with unveiling such dangers. I felt the world shifting beneath the weight of the words I held. Suddenly, a thunderous crash from above jolted me, echoing through the house like a monstrous roar. The vibrations rattled the foundation, and just like that, the candle flickered violently before extinguishing, plunging us back into pervasive darkness once again. Panic gripped me as my heart threatened to beat out of my chest. What now? I cried aloud, thrusting my hands into the blackness, desperately searching for any sign of the woman. But as I reached, dread unfurled within me. The air had shifted, carrying with it the unmistakable sounds of someone approaching. I could sense the presence, the weight of another soul thrumming with urgency. Is someone there? I shouted, but the shadows offered no answer. My heart raced as the dim outline of a man emerged, his features cloaked in shadow but unmistakably male. You shouldn't be here, he warned sharply, voice trembling with urgency. You're in danger, and all at once, the weight of the past pressed upon me, intertwining with the malevolent force drawing near. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Why had I allowed myself to be so entangled in their stories? What awaited me beyond this threshold, a reckoning or a salvation? The sudden appearance of the man sent a jolt of adrenaline coursing through my veins, raising the hair on my arms and prickling my skin with a mix of fear and intrigue. His silhouette hovered in the dimness, cloaked in an urgency that felt palpable. I leaned into the shadows, desperate to glean more, my heart a wild drumbeat echoing in my chest. Who are you? I managed to stammer. My instinct screamed at me to run, but a deeper part of me was drawn to him, propelled by the unseen strings of fate that had led me to this moment. That I am a messenger. His voice cracked slightly, revealing a vulnerability that was unexpected in such dire circumstances. But I'm also a guardian. I am here to warn you. Warn me? About what? My voice came out sharper than intended, carried by a surge of impatience mixed with fear. The air felt thicker, heavier, pressing down on me as if trying to enclose me within the walls of this moment. The scroll, he hissed, glancing toward the aged parchment still unfurling in my trembling grip. Those tales aren't benign. They can awaken what has been sleeping. You have to understand the gravity of your choices. His intensity was unnerving, but there was something hopeful in his eyes, like a flame searching for breath amid the encroaching darkness. You want to know about Sir Alaric? His fate? You want redemption for those lost souls? But sometimes, uncovering the truth means taking on burdens far heavier than you might imagine. Isn't that what I'm meant to do? I replied, my voice trembling with conviction, less from knowledge and more from a desperate need to believe it was true. My grandmother's stories clashed with his warnings in my mind, each vying for my allegiance. It's my responsibility, my destination. You think you can bear it? The burden of secrets that have twisted time itself? The boy's voice cracked with a warning that felt heavier than lead. There are forces at play that don't want what's hidden to be revealed. And when you pry at the past, shadows will claw back. I felt my breath catch, the weight of his words compressing the air between us. Then what should I do? Hide forever? Forget? No, he almost pleaded, his expression softening. But you need guidance, someone who has walked this path before. There was a moment of silence, thick with tension, as I felt the world around me pulse like a heartbeat, anchored in possibilities but riddled with dread. What do you mean? My mind blurred with doubt. Who else could possibly help me? Where are? But before I could finish my question, a shrill howl pierced through the air, sending a tremor through the very foundations of the house. My heart stuttered in panic. The darkness had come alive, thrumming with something unspeakable. The man flinched, his expression shifting into something primal, something fearful. Time is running out, he whispered urgently, adrenaline propelling him closer. You have to trust me. Follow me. With a hurried gesture, he turned and bolted toward the staircase leading into the abyss of shadows. My instincts screamed at me to follow, but a part of me remained paralyzed, the gravity of the moment battling my desire for safety. What if it's a trap? I shouted, regret staining my laced words. Stay here and find out. Or take a chance and find the truth. He glanced back, his shadowy form wavering just beyond the threshold of light that trickled from a small window. It ignited something within me, the flicker of desperation curling around my resolve like a whisper of hope. With an unsteady breath, I took a step forward, heart racing, determination igniting every cell within me. I trust you, I called, each word laced with the tremor of bravery as I approached the staircase, gripping the scroll tightly to my chest like a talisman. The stairs creaked underfoot, the darkness thickening around us as we descended deeper into the unknown. The air grew colder, tasting bitter against my tongue, and I could almost see the tendrils of fear clawing at the edges of reality, wrapping around us both like a vice. Out of the shadows, a door creaked open, revealing an expansive chamber, dimly lit by ghostly blue candles flickering to life. My breath hitched as I stepped inside, captivated by the glint of steel glimmering under layers of dust. A worn sword perched on an altar, an echo of battles long forgotten. Welcome, the man gestured, stepping forward. This is where we must uncover the truths that were buried. But you must be ready. Whatever lies here could fracture you. And just as I took in the rest of the room, an icy chill ran down my spine. There, on the wall, engraved deep into the stone, were names, dozens of them, each accompanied by a date I recognized as significant. Visions of warriors and losses danced impatiently in my mind, blending with the haunting figure of Sir Alaric, but amidst them, I froze. One name stood out starkly, striking fear and disbelief into my heart, a name that was far too familiar. Lucas, I breathed. As I kneeled to trace the letters carved in stone, the realization cascaded over me like a cold wave. Lucas, me brother, lost years ago. And yet, here his name tied irrevocably to this dark web of history. What does this mean? Panic surged through me, blood rushing in my ears. Some stories bind together, intertwining destinies, the man murmured, his face grave. We must find out why your kin is linked to this. That I felt my world shatter, remnants of hope splintering into sharp edges, and in the depths of the encroaching shadows, fear clawed at my soul, whispering promises of despair. The deeper I delved into the past, the closer I drew to the very heart of darkness that I swallowed hard. As the weight of my brother's fate cloaked the chamber in suffocating dread, I realized I was not merely a seeker anymore. I had become a pawn in a game woven through time, haunted by echoes of bloodlines and burdens. The mysteries surrounding us pulsated with restless energy, and the dark promise of revelations yet unfurling pressed against my heart. What must I do? I found myself asking, my voice barely a whisper amid the gathering storm, and as the candles flickered violently, casting wild shadows on the walls, I understood. I was teetering on the edge of two worlds, the living and the lost. What awaited me beyond this threshold was not merely the truth, but a reckoning that would change everything. The weight of my brother's name etched into stone tightened around my throat like a noose, each heartbeat echoing the past I had tried so hard to escape. I looked up from the wall, searching the man's face for some semblance of reassurance, but found only concern etched deeply into his brow. "We need to know how your brother fits into all of this," he said, his voice steady yet tinged with urgency. "There's more at stake than you might understand, and uncovering his connection may lead us down a path we cannot turn back from." A shiver ran through me. What if he's connected to the scroll? The words felt heavy on my tongue, the implication too terrifying to fully grasp. His expression softened momentarily, a flicker of empathy flooding his eyes. He might be. But perhaps that connection can help us. Maybe he's the key to revealing what was meant to stay buried. I swallowed, struggling against a rising tide of fear and grief. I had spent years trying to shield myself from the weight of his absence, always wondering what might have been. The idea of uncovering the truth felt akin to pulling at an old wound, the rawness surfacing at the slightest touch. And what if unearthing this brings him back? Or worse? My voice faltered, drowning in the possibilities of pain. "Then we need to prepare ourselves for whatever lies ahead," he said, a resolute determination washing over his features. Drawing a shaky breath, I forced myself to look at the wall again, tracing the letters with trembling fingertips. Each letter felt like a pulse, alive and taunting, begging me to dive deeper into a past I thought I had laid to rest. The names around us felt like scars on my skin, tugging at my conscience. Suddenly, an unexpected kindness washed over me, a small inkling of hope. If his story can guide us, then perhaps there's still a chance to save him, I murmured, bringing a hint of light back into our darkened world. "What if we can right the wrongs?" The man nodded cautiously. "That's the spirit, but remember, with every truth we uncover, we risk awakening forces that have lain dormant." The flickering candles trembled as if responding to the weight of what we discussed. Shadows danced across the vast chamber, weaving tales of battles lost. With each flicker, I thought I glimpsed figures in the edges, forms that danced just beyond the reach of light. But as I blinked, they dissolved into the thickening darkness that we had to move quickly. I turned away from the wall and faced him. "What do we do next?" "We need to find the glyphs, archaic symbols that hold the key to understanding the scroll's power. They'll tell us how to navigate through its mysteries," he replied, his voice gaining strength. "But we must first go through the trials." "The trials?" My stomach twisted at the sound. "Yes," he said, his eyes narrowing. "Tests of will and heart to forge our commitment to this path. They will determine if we are meant to wield the knowledge the scroll reveals. And if we're not?" I pressed, dread curling in the pit of my belly. "They could consume you," he warned, and the weight of his gaze danced dangerously close to fear. "But we have to try. It's too late to turn back now." As he spoke, the air thickened with tension. A hidden door in the chamber slowly creaked open, revealing a narrow passageway lined with ancient runes. I shivered at the sight as a cold draft swept through, whispering warnings of destinies yet unwritten. "You can go back," he said, gauging my hesitation. "No one would blame you." But deep down, I knew surrender wasn't an option. Lucas' name burned in my mind like an ember, a poignant reminder of what sought to be revealed. I squared my shoulders, determination coursing through me. "Let's do this," I finally replied, resolve intertwining with the uncertainty that gripped my heart. He stepped forward, his eyes glinting with a mix of admiration and concern as he gestured for me to proceed. Together, we ventured into the shadows, the passage spiraling into darkness, each step pulling us closer to peril and revelation. As we delved deeper, the rhythmic echoes of our steps morphed into whispers, fragments of voices long silenced, weaving tales of heartbreak and valor. Abruptly, the walls began to shimmer with ethereal light, pulsating as if they were alive, breathing history into the air. And then, echoing through the confines of the passage, another howl erupted, this one unmistakably human, filled with pain and fear. My heart stuttered with dread. "Did you hear that?" I gasped, halting in place. "Yes," he replied, his urgency clearer now, like a crack of thunder in the stillness. "We must hurry. What lies ahead is complicated." As we pushed forward, the howling crescendoed, wrapping around us in a web of anguish. I felt its resonance deep within me, igniting a primal instinct that propelled me onward, Despite the chill of fear that clawed at the edges of my resolve. We neared an archway at the end of the passage. It shone with a light that beckoned us forth, yet shadows danced ominously at its threshold, whispering secrets. My pulse quickened, a cacophony of worry and hope clashing within me, and then, just as we were about to step inside, I heard another voice, one that I had not expected, rising in anguish from within the luminous depths. "Help me." Time froze. The voice was unmistakable. "Lucas?" My heart raced as a mix of desperation and recognition surged through my veins. But just beyond the veil of light, darkness flickered menacingly, shifting as if a storm brewed. Would his cries guide me to the truth or plunge me deeper into despair? In that moment, I realized this was just the beginning. The trials awaited, but first, I had to face the echo of a brother I thought had been lost forever. I stepped forward into the unknown, heart pounding as the world around me blurred, merging with the reality of secrets that had been yearning to surface, and as a single question blossomed amid the chaos, freezing the air around me: if the truth would set him free, could it also destroy everything I had ever known? The passageway opened into a vast chamber, illuminated by a kaleidoscope of vibrant colors, ethereal light refracting through the air like shimmering threads of fate. My breath caught in my throat. This place felt older than time itself, carrying the weight of countless stories, each stone whispering tales of struggles and sacrifices. Yet, all I could hear were those two words, echoing in my mind: "Help me, Lucas." The light danced around me, inviting yet insidious, drawing me closer to its source. I hesitated, caught in a tug-of-war between fear and the desperate wish to reach him. My heart thrummed loud enough to drown out the howls, and every instinct screamed for me to return to safety. But I couldn't abandon him, not again. The man beside me grasped my arm firmly, grounding me amidst the rising tide of emotion. "We need to be cautious. The trials will test our strength, not just physical but emotional. You must be prepared for what awaits you." Will he be there? Will I finally learn the truth about what happened? I pressed, my voice trembling as the weight of my burden pressed against my chest. His brow creased with concern. "The trials will reveal what's necessary. Sometimes, the truth isn't what we expect. You may discover more than you wish to uncover." The shadows lurking at the edges of the chamber shifted uneasily, as if aware of our presence. I could feel their dark energy tugging at my heart, reminding me of the grief I tried so hard to suppress. Taking a deep breath, I nodded, summoning what little resolve I had left. "I'll face whatever I have to." As we stepped into the chamber, the light intensified, swirling around us in crescendos of color. It was both mesmerizing and disorienting. "Focus on why you're here," he reminded me, his voice steady despite the surrounding chaos. No sooner had the words left his lips than the chamber began to tremble, fissures tracing across the floor. A deep rumble vibrated through my bones, and the vibrant light twisted violently, transforming into something dark, era churning, seething mass that coiled around us. I turned, desperate apprehension bubbling within me as the shadows melded into distinguishable shapes, figures of those lost and forgotten, faces etched with anguish. Their cries filled the air, voices distorted by anguish, reverberating in the depths of my soul. "Lucas!" I called out, but my voice drowned in the noise, swallowed by an abyss of despair. Suddenly, luminous figures emerged from the swirling tempest, warriors clad in rusty armor, women with eyes blazing like torches, their expressions steeped in both rage and heartbreak. Each apparition pulsed with a dark energy, their forms flickering between reality and illusion. "The trials have begun," the man said, his grip tightening on my arm. "Stay focused. You must differentiate between who seeks to torment and who may guide you." A figure lunged forward, a woman's face appearing briefly in the storm. "You're the reason behind his pain." Her accusatory words sliced through me, setting aflame wounds I had barely begun to heal. "You can never escape what you've done, no." I cried out, the weight of her words sinking into me like nails. "I did everything I could. I tried to save him." "Everything you could?" A voice resounded, unmistakably Lucas, but distorted, echoing with sorrow and resentment. "You ran away from the truth. You left me stranded." Panic clawed at my throat. No, please." I couldn't bear the thought that he might blame me for what transpired, the guilt swirling around me like a noxious fog. "Shut out the noise, reach for what matters." the man beside me urged, his own brow furrowed with concentration. Focus on your love for him. That's the only thing that matters in this trial. Forcing the echoes aside, I closed my eyes, summoning memories of Lucas, the sound of his laughter, the way his sincerity could illuminate even the darkest days. I am here for you, I whispered desperately, hoping my love could bridge the chasm forged by fear and regret. The howl subsided, and the chaos began to wane, but a sinister laugh broke through the stillness, drawing my attention. You think love can save you? It came from the storm itself, twisted and mocking. Love isn't enough to wrestle the shadows lurking in your past. The swirling mass thickened, and the light dimmed, casting elongated shadows creeping closer. You want to face him? Prepare for the cost. A sudden flood of figures coalesced into visibility before me, own form radiating with familiar warmth, yet cloaked in a shroud of darkness. As light wove into his silhouette, an endless abyss churned beneath him. Lucas. I gasped, feeling a rush of conflicting emotions. I reached out, but the distance felt insurmountable, as if each step forward pulled me deeper into despair. Oh, please, you can't expect to find me here without facing the truth. The truth about us. The truth about you. His voice echoed, layered with pain yet laced with an urgency that tugged at my heart. Tears pooled in my eyes. Just when I thought I had found hope, reality struck, dragging me back into the depths of my fear. The trials weren't just tests. They were a reckoning, and the price would be steep. Take another step, and you will uncover what you fear the most, the shadows whispered, curling around me like tendrils of smoke, pulling me toward the darkness made flesh. Just as I was about to protest, I felt a rush of warmth curl around my heart, a thread of connection I had forgotten. The flicker of love ignited within me, shoving away the shadows for just a moment. But beneath it all lay a question still unanswered, one that loomed larger than life itself. How far would I go for love, and what horrors awaited me in a world built on secrets that could shatter everything I knew? As I took a hesitant step toward Lucas, the shadows surged, an overwhelming tide of wrath and sorrow, lips curling into a smirk. The boundaries between salvation and devastation blurred, and I trembled at the precipice where all truths would finally lay bare. And then, just as my fingers grazed his, everything shattered into a blinding light. The chamber exploded into chaos once more, and I had no choice but to confront the heart-stopping secrets of my past, plunged deeper than I ever imagined. The brightness intensified, enveloping me as if the chamber had transformed into a celestial realm where light and sound fused into incomprehensible waves. It became impossible to discern what was real. My heart raced, and I instinctively clutched onto Lucas's hand, desperate for solid ground amid the metaphysical storm. Don't let go, I breathed, squeezing his fingers, my mind spinning with the cacophony of shouts and sobs all around us. But as I tried to pull him closer, he slipped through my grasp, spectral and faint as if he were made of mist. Listen to me. His voice traveled through the blinding haze, carrying with it an urgency that pierced through my mounting despair. You have to confront your past. You must understand that love isn't a shield. It is a choice, one you must make again and again. That I strained to hold on to the warmth of his touch, but the darkness loomed just beyond, ever present and insistent. What are you saying? I cried out, terrified of the shifting realities. What past? What choice? But before he could respond, the shadows surged forward, coiling like serpents. The chamber warped around me, exposing hidden recesses of my consciousness. Fragments of memories erupted into view, flashes of laughter, betrayal, the ethereal dance of moments long lost, and the faces of friends who had become ghosts in the corridors of time. Face your fears, or you will lose what you love most. The ominous voice echoed from the heart of the storm, taunting and triumphant. I was thrust into a series of vignettes, each more searing than the last. I saw that fateful night at the festival, the growing tension as Lucas and I had drifted apart, the choice I had made to step away when he had reached out for me in his moment of vulnerability. The invasive bitterness of regret churned inside me, threatening to drown the flicker of hope. No. I can't go back there. I screamed, tears streaming down my face as the events unfolded like an unrelenting tide, smashing against the fragile dam of my heart. Each revelation echoed the lurking suspicion that my choices had consequences far beyond anything I had anticipated, but amidst the anguish, I noticed a flicker of light, the woman from earlier, the one who had called me a traitor. She stood beside a crumbling wall just out of reach. Her eyes held a sorrow that mirrored my own, tempered by a strange understanding. "You've carried this burden too long," she spoke softly, but her voice bore an authority that resonated within me, transcending the tumult. "You can break free, but you must acknowledge your part in the devastation, your unwillingness to face the truth. Only then can you mend the wounded bonds that I felt the shadows constricting around my chest tighten, squeezing out the breath and clarity needed to confront my feelings. But if I let it all in, what if it shatters me?" The question fell from my lips, filled with the weight of uncertainty. Sometimes, what feels like destruction is merely the stripping away of illusions. Her words hung in the air, resonating with an echo of hope that ignited a small flame in my core. "You are stronger than your regrets. Embrace your truth. It's the only way to save him." A blinding light flickered at the edge of the chamber, illuminating the shadows for a mere heartbeat, revealing countless lost souls that had crossed paths with my own. Each one bore a piece of the story that connected us. Stories I had chosen to silence, not out of malice, but from fear. Driven by a sudden surge of determination, I shifted my focus to Lucas. "I will not let you slip away," I vowed, feeling the weight of my choices settle around me like a mantle. "I refuse to let fear dictate my love for you." The shadows shrieked in protest as I leaned forward, returning to the heart of the chaos where the silhouettes of our shattered past converged. To navigate this storm, I first had to embrace the very truth I had avoided, the moments that had forged the distance between us. Yet just when I thought I could peel back the layers, another figure emerged from the dark, a shadowy silhouette cloaked in uncertainty and regret. "You've underestimated the cost of your journey," it whispered, icily familiar, igniting a quake of recognition within me. Panic coursed through me as I faced the specter of my past, the man whose betrayal had once shattered my world into fragments scattered across an unforgiving landscape. It was him, my childhood friend, the one who had sworn loyalty before orchestrating our ruins. "Why are you here?" I demanded, rage and fear intertwined in my voice. "You can't be real, can't I?" The figure stepped forward, revealing contours of a once familiar face twisted by malice. "You wish to confront your fears, yet you ignore the one who set this path before you. You want to save him, but you can't even save yourself." A shudder ran through me, and as the shadows began to coalesce around this specter, I realized, the true trial was not merely facing Lucas' ghosts but confronting the sinister choices that had led us all here. Desperately, I sought out the light again. Its warmth was still there, flickering but not extinguished. I didn't have all the answers, and perhaps I wasn't supposed to. But I could no longer ignore the darkness lurking within, the parts of my story that still sought acknowledgement and healing. Choking back the flood of emotions bubbling to the surface, I steeled myself, determined to dive into the chaos, to confront whatever horrors awaited me, just as the shadows threatened to engulf not only my memories but the light I longed to reclaim. "Show me the truth," I shouted against the tide, my voice breaking but fervent. "Unravel the secrets." I will not run any longer. The chamber convulsed, spinning wildly, and what I had to uncover lay tantalizingly close. But despite the light within me igniting a flicker of hope, I felt a tremor of dread, the knowledge that the truths I sought were layered in depths yet unseen. And just as I braced myself for the revelations, the world around me twisted one last time, throwing everything into a chaotic whirlwind, suspending time itself with a promise that something monumental was about to be unveiled, an unveiling that could shatter not only my bond with Lucas but the fragile web that held my very identity together. In the maelstrom of ever-shifting shadows and stinging light, I braced for the impact of truths long buried. As I stood defiant, the familiarity of my childhood friend's guise twisted into something darker, morphing into a specter of regret and consequence that rippled through the fabric of my reality. "Show me the truth," I repeated, my voice merging with the roar of the storm around me. In response, the chamber quaked, reverberating with a deep, resonant pulse that seemed both alive and omniscient. The air thickened, charged with an electric tension, as if every forgotten memory manned its own battalion, ready for war. Suddenly, the echoes grew louder, snatches of conversation interwove with the frantic whispers of regrets. I grasped at the threads of laughter shared, the innocent promises, and even the deeper thorns of betrayal. Each fragment stung like sharp glass as I sifted through the rubble of my past, longing for clarity amidst the chaos. "Why?" I found myself mouthing quietly, half to the specter, half to the ghosts lurking in the edges of my memory. "Why did you feel you had to hurt us? The apparition stepped forward, no longer just a representation of a past betrayal but a dark mirror reflecting my own fears and insecurities. You thought avoiding your truth would shield your heart, but avoidance only grew the shadows within. I didn't make those choices for you. You are the architect of your own fate. His icy stare seemed to strip me bare, exposing the threads of self-doubt and remorse that snaked tightly around my heart. Lucas, I whispered, the name rolling off my tongue like a prayer, a lifeline. I saw him then braving the weight of my silence in his own battle of truth and consequence, a battle I had unwittingly pulled him into. That I need to save him, I fervently declared, grappling for a purpose within the despair that threatened to consume me. I will break this cycle. With newfound resolve, I stepped deliberately towards the smothering shadows, holding on to the glimmers of hope that had ignited in the woman's voice the reminder that strength often lay hidden beneath layers of pain. I will own my part, my fear, my hesitation. I will face what I've done. The air crackled, charged with a potent energy that awaited my reckoning. Just as I prepared for that confrontation, the darkness erupted, swirling in chaotic spirals as if chaos had taken form itself, revealing the outskirts of an ethereal landscape, the platform suspended between the past and the present. That a shadowed figure emerged from beyond the veil, enveloped in mist, its features blurred, yet strikingly familiar, igniting a flicker of recognition that made my heart race. You think facing your choices will free you? The figure spoke, and I felt the weight of their disbelief wash over me. You are merely digging your own grave. No. I shouted back, anger and despair intertwining. You don't understand. I have to confront the love I lost, the choices I've made. I can't let fear hold power over me any longer. With each word, the void around me twisted and churned, and an unsettling realization struck, a revelation about not just my fear but how intertwined my fate was with those I had written out of my story. Can you trust yourself enough to face not just your past but the truths of others? The voice grew softer, almost tender, drawing me in. Beneath your fear is vulnerability, and that is where love truly lives. At that moment, a vision surged to the forefront, images of Lucas laughing, the feel of his hand intertwining with mine, the moments when our connection danced with brilliance. The impending darkness didn't just threaten to shatter these memories, but it illuminated the richness they held, a reminder of the life I still wished to salvage. Love is a choice. The truth echoed from within me, begging to cascade into reality. I choose to love him, know him perfectly, entirely, and freely. A sudden tremor rippled through the chamber, pulsing outwards, forcing myself to confront the shadows again. Yet they didn't recoil this time. They advanced, not solely in a battle of rage but as remnants of time, the heaviness of grief, betrayal, and longing. I see you, I whispered through the tears welling in my eyes, willing myself to acknowledge them. Not just you, but the pain. I cannot carry it alone anymore. And just as I felt the weight shifting, something unexpected happened. The shadows began to dissipate, revealing flickers of light, the people whose memories I had long shunned and hidden in murky depths. Their faces emerged, not as representatives of my regrets, but as souls intertwining in our shared existence. The capable hands I had erased despite their unwavering affection. Help me, I gasped, the deeper plea resonating through the chaos. Help me forgive and embrace the truth. Simultaneously, the chamber erupted in dazzling light, exposing the sprawling connections that nurtured love but also the truths that had been neglected, the stories woven together. But just as clarity began to unfold, I felt the ominous weight shifting again, like a storm gathering on the horizon. The specter of my childhood friend lunged, an urgent warning spilling from its lips. You seek hope, yet you tread a dangerous path. Be cautious, the truths you uncover may be more haunting than you believe. And before I could respond, the world abruptly quaked again as the chamber caved, a dark whirlpool pulling everything with it. Fear surged through me, and in that instant, a chilling realization gripped my heart. Perhaps my pursuit of love and truth was only the surface of an abyss waiting to engulf me. As the light flickered and shadows reached for me, a haunting thought settled heavy in my chest. It whispered that my quest was far from over, that the heart-stopping secrets I longed to unveil were veiled in ripples of deeper connections and unfinished business. And just before the darkness swallowed everything whole, the echo of his voice returned, carrying with it a devastating warning. I could not ignore. The true cost of uncovering these body counts could shatter the very fabric of the love I sought to reclaim. The world around me twisted in frantic chaos, each flicker of light and shadow pulling me further into the abyss I had dared to confront. My heart raced against the relentless tide of uncertainty, the looming specter of truth threatening to unearth all my buried fears. With each beat, I felt the weight of the past crushing down, and there was no denying that I was at a precipice, ready to tumble into depths I could hardly fathom. As the darkness knitted itself tightly around me, a sudden spark cut through the void, a small, brave flicker of warmth. With desperation clawing at my throat, I reached for that light, clutching it like a lifeline. It was a memory, vivid and haunting, of Lucas standing under a canopy of stars, his laughter ringing like music in the cool night air, a reminder of the bond we had forged amidst storms of our own making. Lucas. My voice was a raw whisper, a plea laced with the desperation that surged through me. I needed him, the real him now, more than ever. This journey was no longer just about confronting the echoes of my past, it was about finding the strength to pull back the curtain on the secrets that bound us. As the shadows swirled, morphing into nightmarish visions, I felt the presence of my childhood friend looming close. The darkness that cloaked his form seemed to writhe with malevolence. "You do not comprehend the weight of your choices," he warned, his voice a chilling reminder that some truths could break the bonds of love, shattering everything in their wake. Revealing these secrets could ignite a fire intended to burn everyone you love. No more. I cried, finding the ember of defiance flickering inside me. I won't hide any longer. I won't allow fear to control me. I was terrified, yes, but I had to confront what lay before me to save Lucas and, perhaps, myself. In that moment, the air shifted, the shadows coalesced into a rich tapestry of emotion, weaving faces of loved ones who had drifted from memory, akin to lost ships adrift on turbulent seas. Unexpected kindness began to unfurl, each familiar face glimmering as fragments of hope amidst the upheaval. A memory of Mia, her eyes bright and hopeful, floated to the surface. She had always encouraged me to seek out the truth, urging me to embrace vulnerability. "Your journey isn't solely yours," her voice echoed softly in the turmoil. "Others are intertwined within, and it is through them you will find the love that sustains you." "Lucas, I'm coming," I shouted, the clarity of my purpose igniting my spirit. This was not about erasing past mistakes, it was about embracing the love that had survived despite the shadows. But just as I felt the ground solidifying beneath my feet, a chilling laugh reverberated through the chamber. The specter of my friend was unraveling, revealing itself not just as a warning but as a harbinger of deeper truths. "But what if you uncover the truths that shatter you both? What if the love you cling to is forged on the ashes of betrayal?" My heart dropped, crashing into an abyss of dread as the dark cracks of revelation started to break open within me. What if the love I sought to reclaim wasn't as pure as I had believed? What if Lucas had his own skeletons, unburied and festering? The haunting thoughts spiraled into being, igniting an insatiable hunger for answers, yet the rush of terror clung to my skin like ice. An overwhelming urge surged within me, an urge to flee, to turn back and bury the truth deeper than ever before. But just as quickly, I felt the warmth of the flickering memories wrapping around me, bolstering my resolve. If I wanted to save Lucas, I had to confront the darkness head-on, not just my own but his as well. Together, I vowed, though the echo of my voice trembled as I allowed the shadows to encircle me once more. "We will face this. Whatever we uncover, we will face it together." But before I could step forward, the dim lighting shifted yet again, revealing a chasm in the fabric of the room itself, a gaping hole that threatened to swallow the light whole. From the depths, a devastating truth emerged, materializing in the shape of letters, scrawled words that seemed to pulse with life, beckoning me closer. My breath hitched as I approached the shimmering surface, hypnotized by the promise of answers that lay within. "Dare you read?" The figure whispered as the letters rearranged themselves before my eyes, revealing glimpses of events in painful clarity, moments where the bonds of trust had been tested and torn asunder. No, I breathed, backing away as fear gripped my heart. I understood now that the secrets twined among us were not merely mine to bear, they were part of a larger tapestry interwoven with pain and love, the kind that had the power to save or destroy. Just then, a creeping darkness shot out from the opening, clawing at my legs and pulling me towards the abyss. I fought against it, desperately reaching back for the warmth I had found amongst the memories, seeking the tether of hope that remained. "Lucas!" I cried again, the urgency welling within me. "Hold on. I'm coming for you." The darkness encroached, and I felt its tendrils wrapping tighter around me. The figures from my memories began to scream, their faces twisting in an agonizing plea for salvation as the fissure widened, revealing a truth I never anticipated: a spectrum of lives intertwined, all caught in the crossfire of unspoken love and hidden pain. That shocking moment, I realized I wasn't just unraveling my own story, I was threading my fate with a legacy far greater. And in the depths lay a heart-stopping revelation that would change everything. And as I grappled with the unknown, I suddenly felt a pull within me, a surge of connection igniting across the darkness. Just before the shadows consumed my being, I caught a glimpse of Lucas standing by my side, illuminating the darkness with an unyielding light. But even in that moment of clarity, I could sense a shadow lingering where he stood, a secret burrowed within him, waiting to be unearthed, and it sent a shiver down my spine. In the space between certainty and ambiguity, I realized that this journey was just beginning, and the price for love, the burden of truth, might yet be heavier than I dared to imagine. I floated in the space between light and shadow, caught in the tempest of emotions swirling around me. My heart felt like a pendulum, swinging between hope and dread, echoing the very choices that led to this precipice. With each heartbeat, I remembered Lucas's laughter, his warmth, the way he had made me feel seen in a world crowded with secrets. The chamber trembled as pieces of our shared history spun around us like a kaleidoscope of regrets and faded dreams. I could hear the whispers of those who had suffered the weight of unspoken truths, their voices rising like an orchestra of the lost. I knew I had to keep moving. I had to confront what I had ignored for too long, the shadows that intertwined with our story. Show me, I called into the darkness, summoning my courage. Show me everything I have hidden from myself. The walls of the chamber shimmered, and images began to unfurl before me, fragments of moments long buried. I saw Lucas standing before a group of friends, his eyes flickering with uncertainty, his expression marred by something that gnawed at his heart. "Lucas, what were you hiding?" I whispered, desperate to understand the truth behind his silence. As I focused on the scene, the air thickened, heavy with the weight of his unspoken words. "You didn't understand," a voice echoed, resonating from the depths of the shadows. It was Lucas, yet it felt coated with a layer of pain that moved beyond the physical realm. "I didn't want you to bear the pain of my choices. I thought if I kept it from you, it would save you. No, it only buried us both." I cried out, the desperation clawing at my throat. It felt like the sky itself was collapsing around us, every word pulsing with the anguish of unspoken truths. "Love can be a sword that cuts both ways," he continued, each syllable charged with regret. "I thought shielding you was an act of love. But every secret creates a division, a chasm that can swallow everything whole." Desperately, I reached out, fingers trembling as I tried to bridge that invisible distance between us. "Lucas, please. I can't lose you again. I need you to trust me. Let us face whatever it is together." Suddenly, the air shifted, and the surrounding shadows surged, materializing into fragmented memories swirling like a storm. The people we had once known, the moments that had defined our lives, and ultimately, the choices we had made to protect one another. "I didn't just lose my brother that night, I lost parts of myself," I murmured, shards of understanding piercing through the haze of despair. It dawned on me, I had been running from my own pain just as he had been, weaving a tangled web with the very threads of guilt and fear that now bound us both. Then, before my eyes, the swirling darkness brightened, revealing interconnected faces, each one familiar, yet intertwined with murky pasts. They flickered in and out, representing the lives that touched mine, waiting for acknowledgement, as if sensing that I held the key to their freedom. "Face us. Understand." Their cries blended into a chorus, urging me onward. I took a deep breath, feeling Lucas beside me, the intensity growing. We were two hearts intertwined in the journey of healing. I could feel the warmth of hope taking root in my chest, a flame ignited not just for him, but for everyone we had lost along the way. "What if this truth is too painful?" I asked, fear pooling in my gut. "What if by confronting this, I lose everything? Tell me what you fear, and I will face it with you," Lucas responded firmly, his presence anchoring me. I closed my eyes, allowing the wave of memories to wash over me. I could almost hear my grandmother's voice, soft yet insistent, reminding me that there was strength in vulnerability, that love was always worth the risk. I thought of the stories she had recounted countless times, tales woven with heartbreak and resilience, echoing in chambers of my heart. "I fear that some truths will shatter us," I said, opening my eyes to the storm before me. "I fear that in seeking to understand the past, I may lose what I love most." The shadows recoiled slightly, as though they understood the weight of my words. In that moment, I felt a shift and awakening within the storm that compelled me forward. Then let's pick up the pieces together, Lucas urged, stepping closer, the light between us deepening. With renewed conviction, I stretched my arm forward, determined to embrace the truth laid before me. Show me, I said once more, steadying my spirit against the tide. The wall rippled like water, revealing a vast landscape of memories, each fading into view. Some were light-filled, while others bore the weight of sorrow, reminders of battles fought and lost. As I stepped closer, I could hear names reverberating through the air: family, friends, all the souls who had intertwined with ours. But most importantly, I felt the presence of my brother, not merely as a memory but as a guiding spirit, urging me on, a phantom illuminating the path. An unmarked grave appeared before me, and hovering above it, its aura bright yet sorrowful, was Lucas' face. With the air thickening around us, I could feel him there, the flicker of life pulsing at the edge of darkness. Do you see now? He asked, tenderness mingling with anguish. You must own your truth to set us free. You and I are not separate, we are part of a larger tapestry. As the heaviness began to lift, I realized that this journey was not merely about unraveling the past, but forging the future. The choices we had made were but threads that had shaped who we had become. I love you, Lucas. All of you. The light and the shadows. Let me hold all parts of you, I whispered, reaching out once again. Suddenly, the ground beneath us erupted in a cascade of light, a new dawn breaking as the shadows fell back, revealing a pathway strewn with the echoes of lost voices, echoes now marked with grace and acceptance. Lucas stepped forward, boldly grasping my hand. Together, he affirmed, and in that moment, we pressed through the threshold, feeling the weight of honesty flooding over us like rain on parched earth. A sense of urgency pulsed through the air, each heartbeat reminding us that the truth, while horrifyingly powerful, was the only thing that could restore the bond we had long sought. As we moved forward, I felt the embrace of all those who had come before us, their stories threading through ours like the finest silk. Every name whispered a promise of unity. And from that moment, I knew confronting our past would not shackle our hearts but free them, transforming fear into a tapestry of love that would echo through the ages. As Lucas and I stepped into a new reality, hand in hand, I understood that love truly was the bravest choice of all. And my heart swelled with hope as I uttered a final promise: to write our story anew, turn the page, and enter the luminous dawn that awaited us. In that moment of catharsis, I whispered, we will honor all the lives touched by our journey. And finally, from the depths of my being, I dared to believe, we will remember, for it was in remembrance, connection, and love that we found our true purpose, and together, we ignited the light that shattered the illusion of darkness, reclaiming not just our story, but the very essence of who we were meant to be.